promised, it is the first day of June, which means it officially is the beginning of Supergirl Month. If you saw my post about it, I promised, and now I'm going to deliver. So, Supergirl Month is literally us getting ready for Supergirl. The people who are actually excited for the movie and want to see it succeed later on this month, we will be there in the theaters watching and enjoying a well thought out crafted film from what it appears to be. Now, what I'm starting off is with Little Girl Lost, the Superman animated series episode that introduced Supergirl to the DC animated universe as a whole. And does the episode hold up nearly 30 years later? I would say yes. And some key summary things, Superman is going out in space. He gets this sad, distress signal that he is going out there to discover some Krypton sectors of space, searching for signs that anyone survived. During that search, he does discover a distress signal, like from a nearby dead world, Argo. And the sister planet is a Krypton year ago, like a long time ago. And he goes into a cryogenic facility. He gets this message about what happened to Argo City and what happened when Krypton exploded and what caused Argo to also go down with it as an aftermath. And they even state that there are some people in cryogenic stasis. So he goes up, he finds three dead people, which is really dark for a Superman episode. But Superman could go that Superman show could go the distance when they wanted to. And you see their dead bodies and he kind of loses hope for a second, but then he sees one is not destroyed and he sees that the person in there is alive. I love his just genuine, joyful face when he finds her. I think it's just like one of the things that I love about the Superman is that he feels like Superman. Like he had that sense of hopelessness at first, but then he finds her and he just immediately jumps with joy. And it just makes me so happy, like the expressions they put on his face in this show at times. But it's good that we see that we get that perspective of she's been preserved in animation for years, and she's the only survivor of Argo. So he's the last survivor of Krypton. She's the last survivor of Argo. They went with that version. I never understood why they went with this version, especially when they came up with the coolest version of Brainiac, which is like they came up with Brainiac coming from Krypton. So you think they would also want Supergirl too, but they didn't, and that's fine. It still works for me. Every now and then, someone decides to do the Argo City on the other planet thing, but once on Earth, she discovers she has her powers similar to Superman, the Yellow Sun. Her new ability, she's just pretty much out there doing stuff in front of people, flying around. One of my favorite animated sequences in the show is when you see her flying from the sun, and she's flying through the sky, her reflection through the water with it. Like that is some good, clean animation at the time. Like she is really good. It looks really clean. And something I really enjoy is the fact that she sees Clark being Superman. She's instantly fascinated by it and wants to just jump into the action pretty much immediately because that's just her personality. At the same time, Jimmy was doing some of his own investigation, some criminals. I think it was Intergang. It was Intergang, and she gets involved, trying to prove herself, and then she ends up running into Grady Goodness and the trio that she got going. That kind of ends the episode. The shot where they're beating her up and jumping her, then she bounced them off of her and she rips her shirt off, and it's just the Supergirl. And it's I like that shot so much. And Jimmy's like, holy crap, there's another one. Oh, David Kaufman is Jimmy Olsen is good. But it is honestly a solid episode of a first parter because it's a two-parter, which I think is good. And having Ed Asner as Granny Goodness, it's RRP Ed Asner. And, it ends with her doing some Supergirl stuff. So when the second part starts up and it escalates and, Clark becomes involved in Apocalypse and Darkseid and all sorts of stuff, it's he gets captured. And then Kara decides, well, she's about to pull up on Apocalypse and take him back, which I think is honestly super G'd up on her part. But she travels with Apocalypse. She actually does good. She fights some parademons. She fights the Furies. She can go the distance on her own if she has to. The scene pretty much was supposed to prove, yeah, Kara has the will, the goal, and the gut to get herself into the dirt if she has to. And this is pretty much her first out as Supergirl. And I know some people would probably say, oh, they got Superman out the way so that she could do this. Honestly, no. I think they did the right thing by not having him help her so that she can prove her weight and carry herself. I think that is a great way to do it. And then, by the end of the story, she helps save Clark, proves that she's more than just Superman's cousin, and she actually gets a nice little thing in the newspaper. I'm pretty sure Jimmy's like, "Hey, am I Clark being Clark? Hey, I got a cousin in town, and I think you two should meet each other." And it's like, okay, Clark, you're just a dick at this point. And you see her flying around and says, like, "Yeah, this is Supergirl." That's like the end of the two-parter. It's not like the most detailed two-parter, but I do really like the episode. I just like the fact that we got Supergirl in this Superman show, and more things going on with that. But the core of Little Girl Lost isn't really grief or tragedy. It's like Kara adjusting to Earth, learning her responsibilities, wanting to be treated as an equal, proving herself to Superman, taking, those steps toward becoming a hero, becoming the Supergirl that we know and love by Justice League Unlimited. And it's just like a good stepping point for what we get in that show, because the show was already fire as it was. It's my favorite version of Superman. It is just one of those like things that Bruce Timm and them already did well with Batman, and just they also did well with like Supergirl, Superman, and the whole Superman mythos, and not making it suck and making it believable, because they can be too powerful. But this show made them to the point where like the episode can work and the stories can work. Now I will say the emotional depth of this episode, the fact that Carol remembers everything. She remembers Argo City. She remembers Krypton. She remembers Clark as a baby. She remembers everything, and she saw the world disappear. She saw everything. And one of the like things that is it's actually kind of rough, because that's usually what Supergirl is. She's usually chronologically older than him, but because she was in cryogenic sleep for so long, she's younger than him technically. But Kara should be like 40 something if Clark is like late 20s, early 30s. She should be like 40 something. Oh god, I did it again. But the great character chemistry between Clark and Kara is like the heart of the episode. It succeeds in that way. Like it's because it's not really about them fighting. It's about like Clark being the mentor to Supergirl. Like he's stepping into a new role he hasn't really stepped into, and now he's working on it. Now it's that animation and atmosphere. Like I said already, it's something about that '90s animation, that art style of Bruce Timm and them. Like Argo looked beautiful. The Phantom Zone visuals are fairly creepy. The space sequences, they were just so nice. Like it just felt so good to look at that episode. And it's unfortunate because here's Darkseid, Granny Goodness, and the Furies, but the emotional story is so strong. The antagonists, they kind of feel like an afterthought to the episode. Like it just feels like they didn't really need to be there, and like Apocalypse didn't like for Apocalypse being involved. They felt like the afterthought, you know, and I really don't know if the ending feels rushed. I know some people think that way, but I do get why people would say that. But I mean, if she's been on Earth for a little bit, she can't really go anywhere else. Why not just adjust to where you are with your cousin? At least you have someone there who understands you. She does lose everything that she's suddenly settling on into life on Earth, but like she might as well. I mean, you lucked out and you got Superman for a cousin and the Kents for aunts and uncles to look up to. But I will say a highlight is that Kara has to realize Argo's gone forever. And it is one of those things that defines who she is going forward. Overall, I would definitely give Little Girl Lost like an 8.5. Like, I really like the episode. But I can understand some people are like, yeah, the villains for like an afterthought, and the villain then is kind of rushed. But I think it's one of my favorite episodes of the show. If not one of my favorites, it's kind of like around there. Because there's just obvious episodes of Superman that are just the shit. Excuse my language, but it is. And then, so, going forward, I would say Little Girl Lost, it remains one of the strongest introductions of Supergirl, in my opinion, personally, ever put to screen. It showed the tragedy, her relationship with Superman, and her place in DC universe going forward. Like going forward, Supergirl actually does have some bomb stuff later. May not be till Justice League Unlimited, but it shows up. And there is just that it's a surprisingly emotional story. And if I would say, if you guys are going to be ready for the new Supergirl movie, I would say this is an essential watch if you want to get that touch. I think the movie is going in that route of she was on Krypton the whole time, and they're not doing the Argo City thing, or they're not doing the Argo Planet thing. So we don't know. It seems like this Supergirl comes from Krypton, which I always kind of liked more. I think I like the fact that she was just his cousin on Krypton, and she got shipped off the same time he did, but they missed each other. I think I'd think that more. So honestly, I would say you guys should definitely see this episode. I highly recommend it. It is one of my favorites. And with all that being said, I'm gonna sign off, and I will see you guys on the next one.